Ultimate Custom Night is surprisingly a Mascot horror game, and while making these videos, a common request I've gotten from viewers is to do characters from other Mascot horror games, including Baldi's Basics, Bendy and the Ink Machine, and even Amanda the Adventurer. So I thought instead of making a dedicated video on each one of the series, because that would just be ridiculous, why not combine the best of both worlds and pick the top Mascot horror icons and discuss what if Ultimate Custom Night included these iconic characters. So let's not waste any more time, let's get into the video. Our first character is probably the most requested character that I get, Baldi. Well, technically it's puppy playtime, but I did make a dedicated video for that series a while ago anyways. But Baldi is definitely a close second, and I can see why. He's very iconic, and the set of characters that come with him are equally as iconic. Although for mechanics, I feel like every single one of them have pretty self-explanatory and built-in mechanics, such as you needing to do jump rope with playtime, pay the bully, etc. So for this video, I'll be focusing on Baldi himself, for which I do have a really cool idea. Baldi will start in the prize corner area of the building, and will move towards one of the two doors when you open and close it, as he will hear the door being opened and closed. Once this happens, you will hear the slapping getting closer and closer. If Baldi makes it to your office, shutting the door will only stall him, as he will wait there until you open the door to jump scare you. Once he makes it to a door, there is nothing that you can do to draw him away from the door. Instead, you need to collect a single fast coin and place it in the phone located next to the prize corner, which will be visible on the camera. And if you do this before Baldi reaches your door, Baldi will make his way back to the phone, which will make a very distinct ringing sound until it's turned off. During the time the phone is ringing, you can open and close doors without Baldi hearing you. I think this would be an awesome and super fun mechanic, but would be insanely difficult to try and manage this mechanic on top of anything else. However, there are a lot of sound cues and visual cues to help you out, so while it would be insanely difficult with UCN's current format, it would be manageable in the hands of the right player. Even 50/20, I think you could manage him. It would of course be stupidly hard, but I think it would be possible. So the next popular request that I get is probably Bendy from Bendy and the Ink Machine, and he is one of my personal favourites. And like Baldi, I could do the entire cast in this video, but for the sake of simplicity, I will be only discussing Bendy himself, and for this, I have a really cool mechanic for him. So here's the idea. Bendy will have two phases, one where he's in his mini Bendy form, and one where it's Beast Bendy. While in mini Bendy form, he will appear in the same spot as Helpy, or will spawn next to Helpy, possibly swapping between two places that Helpy and Bendy can spawn between. However, unlike Helpy, clicking on Bendy will make him sad, and will transform him into Beast Bendy. When Beast Bendy is active, the night becomes much harder. Once this happens, Beast Bendy will storm down each one of the hallways and enter a portal at each end of the hallway, which will teleport him to the opposite door. So if he comes down the left hallway, he'll appear at the right door, and vice versa. Now this is where it gets interesting. If a door that he appears at is closed, Beast Bendy will destroy the door permanently for the rest of the night. You have to leave it open to let him run into the center of the room and run out. This would be an insanely difficult thing to keep track of, but if you just manage Bendy in stage 1, he wouldn't be a problem at all, and would just be a minor inconvenience compared to what the monster would be like, especially in 50/20 mode. But I do really like his mechanic, and of course, I had to throw in a breaking appliance mechanic here, because that's kind of my trademark. But anyways, let's move on. Now when it comes to Mascot horror games, one that is stupidly popular despite how bad it is has to be Ignited Hello Neighbor. I mean, how many Fast Fredbear videos can one man handle? Jesus Christ. Anyways, for mechanic for Hello Neighbor, this idea actually came from the YouTuber, The Dapper Waffle, who has now demanded all the ad revenue from this video and has filed a lawsuit against me. So if you could spare a moment to donate to the cause by becoming a channel member today to help pay for a lawyer and subscribe to show your support, I would appreciate it greatly. So here's the idea that Waffle co-created with me. Theodore Peterson will wander around the building kinda just hanging out. Once you perform a certain action a total of 3 times, Theodore has an AI in 20 chance to place a bear trap, which will disable the appliance until you click on the bear trap itself, whether it's on the camera, the duct's camera, or the vent opening. Once you click the bear trap, the neighbor will have to wait until 3 more of one action in order to place another bear trap. I think this would be a really cool and interesting idea that truly fits with the lore and gameplay that Hello Neighbor is known for. But just like the actual game, I think this mechanic would be kinda tedious and boring, because honestly it's not too difficult, though opening the camera could be tricky and would lead to some deaths. So now we have a personal favourite of mine, Tattletale, and for his mechanic, I have a really simple idea, but one that may not be too surprising. Tattletale will sit on your desk in the office, and from time to time will demand either a snack, being brushed, or that you charge him. If he wants food, you need to go to the prize corner where you can buy a treat for 5 Faz coins and click him to feed him, and this would be the same for the brush. In order to charge him, you have to click and hold him for 3 seconds. If you fail to do these tasks, he will continue to make noise, which will draw the attention of anyone who is affected by noise, and eventually you will die to them. To be honest, I feel like Tattletale would both be really easy to handle, but could also be really difficult to handle and would completely throw a 50-20 in a very real way, as having to swap cameras and grind out Faz coins could be absolutely devastating. Plus, the RNG with which action you need to perform could absolutely cook you if you got super unlucky. Maybe a system where you could keep the treat or brush, or if it's a one-time event, would make it more manageable, but it could still be absolutely insane at the same time. Now next up, we have a really weird one to include on the list of quote-unquote mascot horror games, but the Duck Season game in my opinion was really underrated and was a really cool take on the original game in a way that I haven't seen any other game really do before. But I had a really cool idea for this video, which I just had to share. So here it is. Throughout the night, the Duck Season minigame will appear, and using your mouse you need to shoot the 3 ducks on your screen. Failing to do so will cause the dog to laugh at you. If you fail to shoot the ducks 3 times in a row, the dog will get mad and jump scare you. You also can only get the minigame when you are in the office. I think this would be an insanely fun addition to the night, and while it may be difficult at first, I think you could code it so that Nightmare On can't get in the way. It honestly wouldn't stump most players, and the room for error means that you can optimize it to decide when you actually want to complete the minigame. So this could be a fun, challenging, but not overly difficult addition, and 50-20 runs would only get slightly harder. So now we have the better Hello Neighbor with Granny, who was probably my most requested to do an AI breakdown of, and maybe I will for a 100k special or something, I don't know, subscribe to see that in the future. But anyways, for mechanic, Granny was honestly one of the more tricky characters since she's kinda basic. But I think we do have a really cool idea nonetheless. Granny will be dormant for most of the night, but when the player makes too much noise, similar to Baldy, a sound effect will play, indicating that Granny is on her way to the office. From there, you need to check when she'll be arriving to the room, and put on the Freddy mask once she gets there in order to hide yourself from her. She will peek into the room and kill you if the mask is not on you for 0.5 seconds, but will leave after 2 seconds, in which case the cycle would continue. To be completely honest, this wouldn't change the overall gameplay loop all that much, and in my humble opinion, wouldn't really affect 50-20 runs in the slightest, unless you messed up and made a bit too much noise, but I still don't think it would be that bad overall. Now as much as I hate to put him in the video, Ben, there's no denying that this series is way more popular than it has any reason being, and for that, I kinda have to include him. But that doesn't mean I have to give him an interesting mechanic. So, you know Freddy Fazbear and how he works in UCN? Ben can work the exact same way, but he comes from the right door instead of the left door. Moving on. I think one of the most unique mascot horror games has to be Choo Choo Charles, since this Tomic the Tank Engine freak show is something that hasn't really been seen before, and to be honest, fitting him into this game would be tricky since he's kinda fucking big, loud, and would probably trash the place. But I also think it would make for a really funny idea. So here it is. Throughout the night, you will hear Charles getting closer and closer through 3 phases of train horn sounds. Once he is close enough, you need to swap to a brand new camera on the map above the main stage area where you will see outside on the roof of the building. And you need to press and hold the button to activate a gun to shoot Charles for 3 seconds in order to scare him off. You need to repeat this process throughout the night, and if you fail to do it in time, Charles will destroy the building and jump scare you. This idea is hilarious, and I love it. Having a character you need to shoot with a gun is the funniest shit ever, and honestly, this is one of my favorite mechanics for this video. However, I do love the ideas I have for the rest of the cast, so be sure to stick around. And also, if you've been enjoying the video, be sure to subscribe to help hit our goal of 100k by the end of the year. Remember, at 100k, I'll be personally thanking every single subscriber. But let's move on to the final few characters we'll be covering in today's video. Finding Frankie is quite a new and also quite an underrated Mascot horror game, with its story being an active game show, which I think is a really cool idea. And while doing parkour on a stationary game is out of the question, I think we could come up with a really cool mechanic for them nonetheless. So here's my idea for Frankie. Frankie will spawn in the ducts and attempt to make his way towards you, requiring you to keep track of which one is sealed and which one isn't. You need to make sure he exits through the open duct, otherwise he will break the duct opening forever. However, depending on which opening he exits from determines what status you need to be in. If he exits from the left duct, you need to put on the mask. If he exits from the right duct, you need to be in the camera. This would be an absolutely insane thing to try and keep track of, but I think it would be a fun challenge, although definitely more on the tricky side compared to other characters. Now, a really popular recent Mascot horror game to come out in recent years is Amanda from Amanda the Adventurer, and she has a lot of potential and could have one of the coolest ideas for a mechanic ever. So I wanted to make sure that it was cool, and I definitely came up with an awesome mechanic. Amanda would have her show playing from one of the monitors in your office, and would be a scripted episode throughout the night, requiring you to learn the right answers, needing you to click on the specific answers by clicking the pop-up questions. If you get an answer wrong, you would have the option to change your answer, but if you get 2 wrong, then you instantly die. I really like this idea, though I don't know what the level would look like, so if you have any ideas, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. But would this make the night more difficult? Well, yes and no. I think it would be tricky at the start, but it would just be something that you have to keep track of as time goes on, and honestly, all things considered, wouldn't be that bad, and in fact would be quite easy. It would just be a little fun challenge on top of everything else, but it would be very scripted, so easy to learn. And now, last but not least, we have someone who may not be considered Mascot horror, but I want to have a mechanic for them nonetheless because they're one of my favorite characters, they're kind of considered, and I don't know where else to put him, so here is the goat himself, Slender Man. There's a lot that you could do with Slender Man, but I think I have a really cool idea, and even though it's a bit predictable, I think it would work extremely well, but it would create probably the single hardest version of Ultimate Custom Night we have made so far. So here's the idea. Throughout the night, you need to collect the 8 pages, which would spawn on every 20-second interval on a random camera. And only one page can spawn at a time. Collecting a page will cause the next one to spawn 10 to 20 seconds later. While looking at the cameras, being on a camera of Slender Man will cause him to start making your screen fuzzy, and this fuzziness and static would permanently be on your screen. After 5 seconds of looking at him throughout the night, imagine a collective 5 seconds, you will instantly die. So to combat him, when you see him, you need to either close the camera or switch to a different camera entirely, making sure you don't look at him for longer than 5 seconds a total throughout the night. This would be an absolutely insane challenge and borderline impossible in actual 50/20 and UCN, without the most stupid luck ever imagined. But if somehow pulled off, it would be absolutely insane, but definitely not something I would ever imagine getting put into Ultimate Custom Night without massively killing the main gameplay loop. But with that, we have covered all the characters that I felt were worth covering. Of course, if you have any suggestions on who should be added and what their mechanics could be sure to let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed, be sure to watch this video where I discuss if the book characters were in Ultimate Custom Night. And of course, thank you to all my channel members listed here. And thank you for this fan art. Going bald is something I recently did for charity, and this piece of fan art was hilarious to see. Anyways, thank you all so much, and I'll see you next time.